Hi everyone, Grandmaster Feingold here. I guess my first name's Ben, since there's a Spencer Feingold too who's making videos. For the last, I guess 3 weeks, I only made one video, somewhat because I don't like you guys anymore, but also I was busy, or as Aviv would say, I was busy. And you guys have been watching Spencer's videos and making your crazy comments there. Now you can focus your attention to my videos. The reason I make videos is I like to do chess stuff. And also I'm raising money for my chess center. We need to get tables and chairs and equipment and stuff. We actually signed a lease a few weeks ago, my wife and I. And we need to put stuff into place and paint it and do some drywall and do some little boxing. So we need funding for that, obviously. If you like the videos, you can donate, but I just want the chess center to work out well and basically raising money for that. So, well, enjoy the videos. I'll try to make some more, although, I'm very, very busy. I mean, this couch hasn't been slept on in like an hour. Okay, so I'm going to show you some positions from the U.S. Championship. Probably over the next week or so, we'll go back to the Pro Chess League, although I'm making a wrap-up video for chess.com, and unlike you guys, they actually pay me. So I have to do a professional job and use my actual microphone. Okay, so I'm going to look at 5 positions from the recently finished U.S. Championship that I thought were interesting for you and you could understand. Well, they'll be interesting anyway. Okay, first game is from Kamsky-Akobian, and it seemed like something was amiss because they went into this really sharp variation, which was fine for Kamsky, but he was playing so quickly, it was hard for me to believe that he actually saw the right moves, because the right moves are very unusual. Okay, so in this position, I guess I could use my mouse. Black took the rook, obviously. Okay, now, Kamsky's not my student, and if he was my student, that wouldn't work out well for either one of us. But he did something, and this is actually very common. Very strong grandmasters do things that are really bad that I would tell my students not to do because they're not my students. They're super grandmasters, so they know better, but then they still make the same mistakes. So in this position, I would tell my student with either color actually, but especially with white, since it's white's turn to move and every piece is hanging, this is a critical position. You have to think for a long time and make sure that you're right. And Kamsky was playing quickly. And usually that's because he already calculated all the variations and he's right. Unfortunately, here he wasn't right. So you could pause your video. White has 2 moves here that don't lose. One gives him a very small advantage, and one is all zeros according to the engine. Neither move is really easy to find. Instead, Kamsky played another move and resigned. So pause your video. What are these 2 possible answers? I'll accept either one. What's the only thing white can do here? Okay, so basically everything is attacked here. Both white bishops are attacked. The white queen is attacked. The black rook is attacked. It turns out the only moves that are good are queen takes d3 and queen e4. Queen e4 is better than queen takes d3, but it's sort of hard to explain. So let's play queen e4, which was not played. And the idea is white wants to play queen g6. In fact, if it was white's move, white would play queen g6. And that would be basically the end of the game. Because the f-pawn's pinned and you're threatening queen g7 mate. And you can't take the bishop on f6 because queen g6 is going to be winning. So, yeah, this move gives him a tiny advantage. I think the right move, unless I'm wrong, is bishop c6, attacking the queen. And if queen g6, which looks winning, then always play bishop f8. And because the queen on c7 is defending the f-pawn because of bishop c6, then he's okay. And black's up an exchange here. Of course, white can take back the exchange, and we'll have some kind of material situation that's close to equal. Remember, white can never play bishop takes d3, threatening mate, because we need the bishop to defend, pin the f-pawn. So the queen would just be hanging there. That's a little complicated for the kind of people who watch my videos. Okay, so after queen e4, the computer says it's slightly better for white, but it should be a draw. The other move you could play is queen takes d3, and queen takes d3 isn't quite as good because when the bishop moves from d7, we're threatening the queen. So there's more dynamic chances for black, although still equal. When Kamsky was playing quickly, it seemed like it was unlikely he saw this, queen e4, queen g6 idea, because queen e4 is a very strange move. And it turns out he didn't. In fact, even my analysis might be wrong. I looked at it with an engine earlier, but it was way earlier. I think it was a few days ago. So even with engines and knowing the position for weeks, I'm still not sure what to do because all the pieces are hanging. Kamsky played quickly and incorrectly. He played the move, bishop takes, well, it's not even here. Okay, he played bishop takes d8. And it looks like black is going to take back on d8, white's going to take on d3, and white's up a pawn, and black has two bishops. So maybe slightly preferable to white. Maybe Kamsky thought a pawn is a pawn. Okay, who knows? And if we trade queens this way, then white's up a piece. So that's not good. Okay, I mean, it's not good for black. Okay, so Kamsky thought, if you take my queen, I take your queen, I'm up a piece. If you take my bishop, I take your d3 pawn, I'm up a pawn. And Vara made a move Kamsky didn't see. If you were watching either in St. Louis, Eric Hansen and I were doing commentary, or if you were watching the live broadcast with Jen, Maurice, and Yasser, you may have remembered what happened here. If not, pause your video. It's black to play and win. Okay, and I don't know if you remember, you saw, it's your first time, you're figuring it out. Black played queen takes c4, obviously overlooked by Kamsky. Maybe he's not familiar with the Eagles song Desperado, which I sing all the time, and somehow I lose a lot of chess students. Okay, so now, just looking at the board, the material is equal. Everything's the same. Same number of rooks, queens, minor pieces, and pawns. But black has a lot of threats. Rook takes d8, d takes e2, and black has two bishops. Assuming that black ever does play d takes e2, he's protecting the queening square. And now the engine says black has something like +4, because white can't really deal with all the threats. For example, if you take on c4, taking a queen, usually good. Take on e2. Material's still equal, but that pawn is worth, a lot. And the bishop on d8 is hanging, and it's just completely losing for white. His pawn structure on the queen side is ruined. Rook c8 would just take all the pawns. Bishop e6. And you can't eliminate the pawn on e2. There's just nothing you can do. So this is completely winning for black. And let's see, I'm trying to go back, but I'm not smart enough. Darn. I was smart enough. I don't really know what else you can do. If you don't take the queen, your bishop's hanging, queen c3 is happening. Okay. After queen takes c4, Kamsky shook his head and was really upset and resigned. So that was an unfortunate miss for Gada. But luckily, we have another position that he made quite a bad move. So let's go to the next game. Okay. Okay, this isn't... Or is it a Gada game? Wow, this is a Gada game. I have 3 Gada games. Man, I hope I don't get in trouble. Okay. I guess it's hard to beat Gada, so when you do, you get it published. This is the game Ray Robson versus Gada Kamsky, and of course Gada played king takes h7. Now, white just traded rooks, and white quickly played into this, so he obviously saw to the end. This is a white to play and win. And there's one move that's very important. If you don't play that move or see it now, you can't go into this variation because it'll be a draw. I showed this to a couple of students. They were trying to break through on the king side, but there's no king side to break through. If your king ever goes to h4, black just plays king g6 or king h6. So can't break through there. So pause your video and try to calculate all the way to the end, which Ray Robson did about 3 moves ago. And see if you can figure this out. Okay, so actually something that's really important in this position that you wouldn't suspect, it's these doubled pawns. If white didn't have those stupid double pawns, he wouldn't be winning. But that's actually winning for white because he has them. So Robson played king f2 and Kamsky resigned. Because obviously they both saw what would happen. So black has 2 ways of playing. One is to defend. and not attack. And defending doesn't work because white's king just shoulders black out and eventually takes the e-pawn. There's no problem at all. Now we actually don't need the double pawns, but okay. So that's not really a good defense. That's very easy winning for white. So the only way to play for black is to attack. So we move up the board. And this is why the double pawn is important. The pawn on f3 is defending g4. That's very important. So king h4. Okay. And obviously, if you take the f4 pawn and take the f3 pawn, that's not very challenging to white. White, gets a queen. Ray Robson can mate with a queen. I've seen him do it. And so taking on f3 is obviously more important. And this is the key position that you should have seen when you paused the video. And in this position, white has 6 legal moves with his king, and only one of them wins. In fact, 3 of them lose. If you moved your king up the board, then you would lose to king takes pawn. So that's very silly. Okay, the only winning move is king f6. And the reason that's the only winning move is it attacks the f5 pawn, so black doesn't have time to play king g3 because he would be hanging his f pawn. So he has to play king g4, and now it's a very easy win. White can win with queen e2 or queen b5, and then put his queen on f1, and then it's over. And both players saw king f6 from the starting position, so Gata just resigned. For example, if you play king d5, now you don't win. And you get this notorious pawn on the 7th, which here isn't winning because the king isn't close enough on d5. So the only move that wins would be king f6. Both players saw that, so the game ended. And Ray Robson actually saw it even before the starting position that I showed you. So king f6 winning, you had to see that all the way back at the beginning, then you solve the problem, and white wins. Okay, next game. Okay, this is a game, Vara, Kobe, and Sam Shanklin. I was predicting incorrectly, as usual, in the analysis room with Eric Hansen, every move black would resign. Sam Shanklin did a good job not resigning because he was drawing later, although he ended up losing anyway. Okay, so Sam played the move rook b5 check, and Var blundered here. So in the game, Var played king takes e4, and black played h5, saving his h-pawn. And the king on d6 won the f6 pawn. So basically, white had to pass b-pawn, which ended up winning the game for him due to a later error. Okay, but this is actually a draw now with correct play. Okay, so the winning move, in fact, the engine says is plus like 14, is king g6. And we're wondering, why would you play a move where you're slightly better instead of a move where black can resign? And we actually figured it out. And a lot of times when people like you are watching games on the internet and you have your 7 engines going and you got your Cheetos and you have your Diet Coke, because Cheetos and Diet Coke makes a lot of sense. And you're like, oh, why didn't he play this move? My 7 engine said so. Well, sometimes when you're plus 14 or plus 10 or whatever, that's because every move is plus 10. But sometimes one move is plus 10 and the other 20 legal moves are equal. And if a super grandmaster doesn't calculate the one winning move correctly, he might mistakenly think he's not winning. Engines don't care about all the legal moves, they just care about the best one. And here, even though the engine doesn't like this move for black, I'm sure this is why he didn't play king g6, because of the move king e6. And now you can pause your video, because even though this position didn't occur, I think this is why Jacobian didn't play king g6. In fact, white has one winning move here. If you don't play that move, you're not going to win. Black's threatening rook g5 check, and then when the king probably takes the h-pawn, then rook f5, and you lose all your f-pawns. You're not even better there. So what's the only winning move for white? Pause your video and try to figure it out. Okay, the answer is to stop rook g5 by playing rook h5. And I can see how Var would miss that, because that trades rooks and gives away your passed f-pawn, which sounds crazy. If you don't trade rooks, the white rook is going to f5, and this guy's pretty strong. So rook h5 wins pretty easily. And the only variation you would worry about is losing your f-pawn, but you have a b-pawn. And if black runs over to the b-pawn, then you easily can take these pawns and win. And if he goes for your f-pawn, because he's trying to get a queen also, he's pretty late. And in fact, if black could make 2 moves here, he's still losing. So this is incredibly losing. Okay, and I'll show you the other variation where he goes after the b pawn. I think b5 wins and king takes wins. I play b5. Okay, I don't think it matters. Oops, move g5. I'm trying to make moves. Okay, and after the move king takes e4, which is next move, the only move black can play to draw is king takes f2, and that's not going to happen. So that's obviously completely winning. So Vara should have played king g6 in this position, and then after king e6, rook h5, and it would have been a nice clean game for Vara. Instead, he played king takes e4. Later, it was a drawn position. Shanklin blundered, and he lost. So all's well that ends well. Okay, next. Okay, this is a game, another Kamsky loss. Kamsky lost to Fabiano Caruana with the black pieces. That's, I guess, no big surprise. Playing black against Fabiano is not very fun. So we have a very strange opening for Gata. He doesn't play the Sveshnikov, but he did. So obviously taking Fabi out of his preparation. In here, Gata thought for a long time, and there's a funny saying in chess, long analysis, wrong analysis. So I think he thought 15, 20 minutes here, and he basically just missed the tactics. Obviously, Gata was not very happy about the prospect of white playing knight to d5. Then, white has a big positional advantage. So he played a move that makes a lot of sense from a positional point of view. Played the move bishop e6. Okay, then if knight d5, you just take it. So looks reasonable. Unfortunately, this fails for tactical reasons. So pause your video, and white's at play and win material. And I think Gata just missed it. Happens. Okay, and the answer is the very tricky knight takes a6. And you can't take the knight because you lose a rook and your b-pawn. And black's down too much material. And this is funny. Fabiano was explaining after the game that normally if you take a pawn on a6, let's say, then move your knight back to where it was, you're losing 2 tempi. So that's not good. So maybe it's worth a pawn. So actually black castled here, threatening the knight, because now there's no check. And Fabi was explaining, in his opinion, the a6 pawn was black's best pawn because it defends b5, and later in the game, you can play a5 and kick the knight off of b4. You can never kick the knight off of b4 now because there's no a5. So the knight's on b4 forever, defending the d5 square. The b5 pawn is permanently weak. The 2 tempi don't really help black. I mean, position's much worse because the a6 pawn is gone, not just because his pawn is gone. b5 is weak. And you can't kick the knight. You can't do anything. And Fabiano won quite easily, I think. So bishop e6 was a tactical blunder, and it cost him the game. Okay, and last but not least, the game between Jeffrey Zhang and Wesley So, which was played near the end of the tournament. I think this was round 9, if I remember correctly, out of 11 rounds. And so Wesley sacrificed a piece, and he has obviously fantastic compensation. I apologize because we have white at the bottom, and black is the one winning, but too bad. Okay, so this position, obviously black is threatening queen takes c1 check, which wins the rook and gives mate. So Jeffrey played rook to d1. Okay, and if you haven't seen this game, you're in for a real treat now, because this is really exciting. So over the next 3 or 4 moves, Wesley played the only move that wins, and it's very exciting, actually. Pause your video. What's the only move for black that wins here? This is very difficult if you haven't seen it. Okay, and the answer is rook to d8, and rook to d8 was played, with the obvious threat of queen takes d1 and checkmate. If you take the queen, now black's threatening rook b1 mate. And let's see, the engine says king g1, I think, and then check, and then here, I think this is the engine line, and then, yeah, you're just losing. I guess you could also win by taking the queen and then c2, rook check, queen. This looks like it. And if knight d5 with some knight e7 trick, that doesn't work. So this should also win. But I think doubling rooks maybe wins easier. I don't know. Okay, so Jeffrey played the trickiest, not the computer line, but the trickiest line, making it hard for Wesley. He played the move knight to d5. Okay, and now we're disrupting the rook on d8's defense to the queen. And also, we're getting out of the way of our passed c-pawn. So not only is black down a piece, but c7, c8 is pretty serious. Okay, luckily, Wesley calculates like a machine, and he'd already, of course, seen everything. He played the only winning move. Again, you can pause your video if you want. Black to play and win, only one answer. And that move is rook takes d5. Okay, and rook takes queen. I mean, this is the same variation, basically, except there's no white knight on c7 anymore. And Jeffrey played the trickiest move again. He played rook d4. And once again, black only has one move that wins. So he's really trying hard to disrupt the communication between the rook and the queen. So he can play rook takes queen at some point. Okay, and also we get to be careful, because c7, that could win. Okay, so again, black to play and win, only one move wins. And that move is rook takes d4. Okay, and again, this is the same variation, except white has no pieces. So, all right. And Jeffrey took the rook. And I think one move for black wins easily, and there's another move where he's plus 1.8, something like that. So there might be more than one winning move here, but there's one move that's a million times better than any other move. And of course, Wesley played it. What's the best move for black? Pause your video and see if you can find it. And the answer is another sacrifice. Queen takes d1. Check. And here Jeffrey resigned because this is the only legal move. And then c2. And there's nothing you can do. You can't lose your queen. And you're going to lose your queen because black's going to play rook b1 and queen. For example, here's a good variation. Okay, and then the white pawn on c6 isn't dangerous. And after d5, there's actually no threat. So I can just play king f8. Although if it was white's move, I would still be winning. In fact, maybe a computer would play rook c5. I don't know. But every move wins. So Wesley played perfectly for almost the whole game. But when it got tactical, then he really played well when it's really important. So let's go back and look at all these brilliant moves. Rook d8, the only winning move. And then after knight d5, rook takes is the only winning move. After rook to d4, rook takes rook's the only winning move. And here, clearly the best move, possibly another move would win, but queen takes rook is ending the game immediately. In the other analysis room, I was doing live commentary for the live audience with Eric Hansen. Jennifer, Maurice, and Yasser were saying this may be one of the greatest games ever played in the U.S. Championship, because with the black pieces, he basically took over the game, made a lot of correct sacrifices, and won very nice style in a game that could have gone either way. I mean, you make one mistake here and it's over. And Wesley hasn't lost a game since, I don't know, June or July or before that. So it's been about 10 months since Wesley's lost. His streak is up to something like 66 games, something like that. And there's no end in sight. So kudos to Wesley. Too bad for Gata losing all these really nice games, actually. Gata fought back after a bad start and actually finished okay. But strongest U.S. championship ever, and really exciting for the players and for the commentators like myself. Maybe next video I'll show you some interesting games from the Women's Championship, because that was also equally exciting with new people winning, people that usually do really well not doing well, and a lot of wins by the younger players. Just to give you a little taste, Jennifer Yu won 4 games this tournament in the women's. She beat Emily Wynn, who got 1 point out of 11. That's not a big surprise. However, her other 3 wins were against the big 3, Nazi Pakidze, Irina Krush, and Anna Zatonsky. So she beat the 3 highest rated and basically the only 3 players who have won the championship in the last 13 years. Jennifer Yu beat all of them and still finished somewhere in the middle. So it's a tough tournament. So well, I hope you like. I'm back making videos. That means you have to come back to making donations. My wife Karen agrees. Right, Karen? She nodded. She didn't say anything. Maybe she shook her head. I don't know. No, she nodded. Yeah. If I tickle her, you could hear her, but I probably shouldn't do that. Let's see. I think she said I should. No, absolutely not. Okay. See you guys next time. Remember to go to atlchessclub.com/donate. The more you donate, the more you learn. No donation is too large. See you guys next time. Bye, everyone.